So I want to highlight a few quick workflows that show actually operationalizing a few of these threat-focused tags. And the way that I'm going to do that is by coming to any of the threat object list pages are great ways for being able to quickly filter down and take some action on tagged objects. So we can come to any of the group, campaign, or adversary software list pages, and I'm going to use this one for our first very quick demonstration. To kick things off, so we have this list of, in this case, overall 912 software objects currently in the Tidal knowledge base. That's obviously a very large volume. Just to show a quick demonstration, we can quickly filter all of this down on the basis of those objects that are explicitly tagged with the ransomware technical capability type tag. And we've dramatically narrowed down that list to 24 software objects. Here now we can start to lean on some of the core capabilities of the Tidal platform, which involve enabling users to quickly pivot from threat intelligence content into relevant defensive resources and content. So here, as I'm demonstrating, we make it extremely easy to load up any of these threat objects in the associated minor attack techniques and sub-techniques related to them into a very classic minor attack matrix view. One of the main overall use cases for this type of view is being able to immediately visualize some of the techniques that are most commonly used or associated with all of the objects that are in our matrix right now. And so clearly on the basis of the underlines on each of these cells, we can see that a handful of techniques are most commonly associated with these threats. From here, we can click into and start our pivoting journey. So we see the preview view of the network share discovery technique and get all the associated metadata aligned with this technique. So certainly the objects that are currently in our matrix, and then really here's the core value is all of the associated defensive content, which we can then further filter down, do some pivoting on the basis of the type of capability that these resources enable. And so from here, we have other walkthroughs that go in much further detail into these workflows, where we can start to pivot and see some associated defensive content, get really into the weeds, the details, to find resources associated with, in the case that we are looking at, the network share discovery technique. And to close out our initial demonstration of operationalizing tags, I'm going to come into the group list page and get a little bit more complex of a workflow going on. So we talked about some of the tag families and especially being used to kind of further drive prioritization, both in terms of your research and your defensive next steps. So one workflow that we could do is we could filter down on the basis of any, in this case, group objects that had the government advisories tag applied to it. And we're gonna immediately start to see a lot of overlap here already, but if we wanna get just that much more granular, we did one search in the tags column. Now we can do kind of a global search across this table view and look for any of these objects that are specifically also tagged with an exploited vulnerabilities tag, in this case specifically something that has a CVE identifier associated with it. So we went from, again in this case, a very large original list of adversary groups, now narrowing down to just 7, of which have been recently discussed or reported about in a government advisory, and specifically some that have been associated with exploiting specific vulnerabilities. So dramatically narrowed down this list. I think we can all agree that most of these groups are pretty prominent, pretty major and apparent in the news cycles. And from here, you can do a number of different things. You can, of course, click into a specific group details page and learn a little bit more about it, or follow along with that exact same matrix-based workflow that I highlighted before. You can load all of these up into a matrix and quickly see where there are overlaps amongst the TTPs, or in this case, actually quite a few differences. So maybe if one of these groups is already on your radar, the basis of your threat profile, leadership priorities, things along those lines, you can further kind of drill in and spotlight which of the techniques in this case might be uniquely associated with that threat, and start to take some defensive actions using the resources in the community edition from there.